too much competition. They didn't want to hire any big, stupid guys like me who couldn't sing and dance. And so I did a couple movies from there. I lived there for a couple of years, then it got really dangerous. Crack hit the streets. It got really scary, so my buddies and I, we all moved to LA, and we've been there ever since the early 80s. Yeah.
Did that role help like shape your decision for going after roles? Because you got this affinity for playing the grizzled, reluctant hero who turns into the guy who's going to protect everybody and be in service in military roles. Did that sort of help guide your path?
Well, it's a tricky thing about casting because most people, if you look around, most people aren't 6'4". There are, for those of us that grew up in the Midwest and ate a lot of corn, you got taller than 6 foot tall. But most people are, average height, and average height is basically what you have in Hollywood too. And it looks awkward when there's a big tall guy with an average height movie star or something like that. So, thug, you get the thug role or whatever, the big military guy. But people frown on the term typecasting, but it's casting. You're casting, you get a job. 3 years later, it's 1979, so it's been 43 years.
Of being the guy that you want on your side.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, I don't know, I can't say everyone, but many people, I got bullied when I was a kid. I have older brothers, but their buddies would wail on me and give me noogies and bloody my nose a few times. So I appreciate that bullying is evil. It's wrong, it's bad. So I'm glad that movie was part of my formative years and my consciousness that speak out against bullies, stand up to them, or become a very fast runner.
Speaking about running in places and locations, you've been in some really interesting places in the world. So do you want to describe some of those that stand out?
Interesting you should say that.
I know.
It's, you set this one up. I don't need to know that. He indicated that. Yeah, I've been blessed to have been to Japan and Hong Kong and Australia, and I've been to Peru. I went to do a movie called 800 Leagues Down the Amazon, which was a Jules Verne epic. But we got to go to Lima and Iquitos, Peru, the headwaters of the Amazon River. Didn't take the side trip to Machu Picchu, which is one of my big regrets. But I had 2 young kids at home, and the shining path was kind of blowing up bank buildings and government buildings, and so my wife was like, just come home. So I didn't take that side trip. Japan, I got to go to Hiroshima, the Pagoda of Peace. There's a whole peace park there. Get to see all the memorials for the dropping of the atomic bomb. That's very controversial. Obviously, they hated it, but it was a necessary evil, I guess, because my dad was, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the bomb. My dad was training to be a pilot for the final wave of firebombing of the mainland, and he probably would have been shot down and I wouldn't be here. So everything in life is a trade-off, but it was very profound to see the destruction, some of the buildings that were still there, shells of their former selves, and I was humbled by that. I made the hike up to the Pagoda of Peace and said a prayer. Just feel blessed that I'm able to walk this earth, for this short period of time.
You only have one life.
That's right.
Use it well.
Use it well.
We've got to talk about Firefly. I mean, I've seen that.
Firefly's boring. So over Firefly for crying. Jane.
Okay.
I love that song.
I like that song. The man called you. So how did
None in Hill Gum.
So
None in Hill Gum.
can you talk to me like you played
Don't chew gum. Don't chew gum. How's that? It's not the gum that freaks me out, it's the boogers. You get hepatitis from the fresh ones. Firefly. That's a line from my bodyguard. The kid rises and reaches up and feel under the desk. Yeah. Firefly.
So let's start from the beginning. How did we land? How did we? Like I had something to do.
We're all friends.
How did you land the role of Jane Common?
It was a normal audition process, I think, that Joss had seen me do a little X-Files, and I think he had seen Full Metal Jacket.
Who hasn't?
He was a Kubrick fan, so I think that got my foot in the door, but then I had to go through the regular audition process with the network at Fox, and I won the role. So I just decided to go all in and just be a character and go and do the reading. 1, carry the 2, 0, nothing from nothing. That whole thing, that whole scene was the audition scene. And I made him laugh in the room, and usually when you make them laugh in the room, you have a good shot at it. They don't do that so much anymore. It's all about sending us in a self-tape, so you get to do the audition. I do it with my wife or my son. We'll read off camera, and then you just email it in or Dropbox it into them. Oh, thanks very much. You don't get the same sense of going into the room and meeting the creatives, as they call themselves, the creatives, and winning the room. It's just that you're on a video on some computer screen, and maybe. It was an interesting disconnect, especially, and it's been heightened. They were doing that a little bit before COVID for convenience sake, but now it's ubiquitous. Saves on gas. Saves on gas. I drive a truck too.
So was there anything from your previous roles that you brought into Jane, like Animal Mother or anything like that?
He was tall, not so bright, still handsome. I was a fan of Western shoot-em-ups. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to what he liked to call shoot-em-ups, and the Clint Eastwoods. But I was always gravitating towards the character roles, the Eli Wallachs and the Jason Robards of the genre. So I was just trying to be one of them guys. I was just copying. I think it was it might have been Brando or Pacino. Or one of the great actors. They said the good borrow, the great steal. Probably Brando. Thief. Shouldn't speak ill of the dead, rest in peace. There's a funny picture, I hadn't seen this before, but James Caan was wishing Robert Duvall a happy birthday. And there's a picture of Duvall, it's like an on-set snapshot of Duvall holding a basically a cue card or script for Brando, and James Caan said, "Happy birthday to my favorite cue card holder." Because Brando was notorious for using lines that were pasted on the wall here and there, which I think is fair because sometimes I would do that once or twice, and it's really a matter of. Okay, for instance, the scene in Firefly where I'm about to be spaced and thrown out of the aerial. It was so loud because they had to make it windy. I couldn't hear what Mal was saying, so I had to kind of read his lips. So when they were shooting this way, I kind of had the script just as a reference so that I could, okay, this is where we are in this scene. And so it's not cheating, it's reference points. Every other line of work, you can have bullet points, and see, he's got a notebook for interviewing, so why can't actors? You can't, I knew the scene. It's really about, do you know the scene? If you haven't read it at all and you're just learning it as you go, that's not good. That's not cool. But if you have it there as a reference, so in Brando's defense, it's not cheating. It's cheating, but it's not unprofessional.
But to be fair, they also expect that I don't have any talent, so. Yeah.
It's not a stage play. You don't have 2 weeks of rehearsal to get the scene right. It's like, okay, this is what we're doing today. All right, we got an hour. Okay.
So speaking of anecdotes,
does that burst your bubble? Does it make you think
that's
less of an artist? Okay, good.
Emotional counselors are at the standby just in case of us.
Oh, it's not real. It's not really on the stage yet.
It's okay, I'm just going to scratch out my process questions here.
Motivation.
So, speaking of anecdotes, what's your favorite anecdote from Firefly?
Anecdote as in...
Funny story.
Oh.
Pleasant memory. Awkward moment.
I don't know. Alan and I used to get into it about different aspects of life and learnings. But Alan taught me a wonderful lesson. He went to Juilliard and he said he hated it, but don't tell anyone he said that actually. He'll tell you. He said it publicly, absolutely. But he loved clown theory class. And he sat us down at dinner one time and I said, well, explain clown theory. Excuse me, I had never heard it properly explained. And if you get a chance to ask him in a panel anytime, have him go off on clown theory. But in a nutshell, it's the clown, be it an angry clown, a sad clown, happy clown, whatever it is 100% committed to the emotion. So a sad clown is 100% sad about everything, and a happy clown is 100% happy about everything. Except, so I would have to pretend or be 100% committed to being happy about sitting here with you, were I a happy clown. But I'm not. I'm merely.
I see you've talked to my wife.
I love your wife. She's very nice. Very nice. Your better half bite. Where were we?
Clown theory.
Clown theory. That's basically it.
Favorite anecdote.
Yeah. Favorite anecdote were my run-ins with Alan Tudyk, and of course Nathan's leadership made it so wonderful. I've been blessed to have Nathan Fillion as my number one on the call sheet leader in our department, as our on-camera department, as we like to call ourselves. And also Zach Levi from Chuck. He's two of the great leaders that just makes you encouraged and loving being at work every day when they're there.
Did you get that same feeling when you reunited with him on Castle?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he was very nice to invite me to do a couple of episodes of Castle. And when we got there, we just fell right into it like old friends and just hit the beats. And he taught me how to sing a little bit. So, yeah, can't sing, can't dance. Missed it. He tried to teach me in high school, I just didn't have it.
To dance or to sing?
I was a hockey player, I wanted to play hockey.
Oh, you can skate.
I could skate, but there's no ice on stage. They didn't have rollerblades then. But anyway, so yeah, Nathan was great, always great to work for, and encouraging and funny, and loving and all that. So again, I've been blessed to have two guys like that, number one. Is there something going on up here? Did you drop something? Is that a contact lens? Did you drop a contact lens? Oh, you're a barrette.
Those are so important.
They are. My share of barrettes. There's a game called Pretty Princess. I have two daughters. And when they were little, they're all grown now. There's a board game called Pretty Princess. And it's a spinner game, and you spin a number and you move your piece around the board, and you collect along the way a necklace, or earrings that clip on, or a ring. Fancy ring. Don't get the black ring though. The black ring means you have to go back and you're out. And it's not good. Oh, I don't want the black ring. But they have a beautiful like turquoise ring and a red ruby ring and all this stuff.
And it's got to match the dress.
That's right. That's right. So we had a dress up room. So they loved having me like put on the earrings and the necklace and the crown, and they loved it when I would spin and it would be, oh, you got the black ring. So I've been in costumes, I've had barrettes and earrings on, and I'm not ashamed of that, because I did it for my daughters. I tried to make them happy and laugh, because I knew later they would make me miserable.
And I feel your pain.
But they're off the payroll now, so it's great.
So you've done a lot of voiceover and roles for animation and computer games recently. So what's that transition like, doing performance on stage and behind the camera to digital?
Well, voiceover work is it's very compartmentalized. You're sitting in a booth or at home, even just transmitting via internet and doing your voice with a good script, hopefully, and imparting a good character via animation or computer graphics, however. So that's fun, and rarely you can get into a room with the other actors. Like I was doing the Jackie Chan events, or the Adventures of Jackie Chan, and you'd sit in a room with Clancy Brown and the other actors, get to know each other over the course of weeks or months.
That's a cool person to partner up with, Clancy Brown.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious. He gave me some of the best advice too. Firefly had just been canceled, and I was never going to work at the Stout again. But we were desperate. We were really heartbroken and very sad at the end of that when it was canceled. You feel my pain?
Yeah.
Have you seen the meme, "You are this old if you still remember being upset when the show got canceled"?
No.
It's still so vibrant. The demand for that show is still there.
So I was hang-dogging it at the easel with the script and the microphone in between takes. I got 3 kids. What am I going to do? I'm never going to work this. I have to find another job. At least I had this one to keep me going, pay the rent and all that stuff. This is, gosh, it's 20 years ago now. And he said, "What's wrong, brother?" And I said, "Just, I had the show." And he said, "Great." He said, "All right, listen. We're all sort of on this zigzagging path of our own toward the end." It was very zen, very cool. Don't compare yourself to what you were doing last year or this year or whatever. Just stay on that path that you're on. It's going to have some zigs and zags, not ups and downs. And don't look at your bad times, because everyone is promised bad times and trouble in their life. It's just not going to be a trouble-free life. It just isn't. And this was stuff I hadn't. He's a couple years older than I am. And I found that so calming and reassuring that I took a big, deep breath and thanked him and relaxed a bit. And I wasn't desperate on my next auditions. And then I got jobs after that and hooked up and won the role in Chuck and other things. And so I owe a big debt of gratitude to Clancy for his wisdom at the time. There are a lot of cool people in the business, a lot of jerks, but a lot of cool people. I'll name the cool people. You know who they are. You know who they are. But Clancy's one of the really great guys in the business.
Awesome. Before we turn the time over to the audience for questions, since we're talking about cool people, have there been any fan experiences that stand out in your mind? What's the best one?
I guess I have a defense mechanism against weirdos, if that's where you're going. Because we're all kind of weird in our own way. And I hope people just take my weirdness as he's just being, that's just who he is. So I roll with people's, foibles and imperfections. We all have them. And I just try to laugh and be happy-go-lucky, hail fellow well met whenever I meet fans, be they in odd costumes. But I would say my favorite costume that I've seen, no offense to anybody that's done cosplay, but was a woman at Dragon Con. This is probably 10 years ago now, in a full Jane hat, knitted hat, brassiere, pants. She was 9 months pregnant and she had Jane's baby painted on her tummy. And she's a sweet lady, very nice. I said, "That's not mine." She goes, "No, I know." And I think she put, I don't remember her name at the time, but I'm positive that she posted a picture of the child later after the baby was born. And I was like, what a blessing, that she would name or think of the baby in honor of a character that I had created. And she was brave enough to wear that bare belly with the Jane regalia at Dragon Con. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So she's out there somewhere with probably more than one kid.
And I do want to actually acknowledge and say thank you to our sign language interpreters. You've done an amazing job with these. And after the review, I've not said thank you, I'm saying thank you now. So thank you.
difficult? It doesn't look easy.
But she doesn't want to. Do you have any questions? No, right here.
In 1996, you actually did the film Independence Day with Will Smith. How did you get that role on Force? What was it like working alongside Big Willie?
Will Smith's a great guy. His favorite phrase that he has is, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And he's right. So when you're young, do that. When you're older like me, just have fun. This time is short. I got the role, I think, because Major Mitchell was available, and B, my friend was producing the movie, so that was a good foot in the door. The great Dean Devlin, he produced the movie. His father produced My Bodyguard. So it's not quite nepotism, but he was the best man at my wedding and introduced me and my wife. And he got shoes for the kids and that sort of thing. To be quite honest, I said, please give me any job. And then when the Patriot rolled around again, I said, please, again, another job. And I said, got one for you. But you have to burn a church with people in it. Well, is it a pretend church? It's a pretend church. It's made of balsa. Oh, okay.
There's a question right here.
Yes.
How was working with Zachary Levi again? And do you know if the Chuck reunion is coming?
Zach Levi, like I said before, one of the greatest number one on the call sheet in my experience. And I got to reunite with him on a movie called American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story recently. It was great. The guy took a beating, as a quarterback. We had some stunt guys in there, obviously, who were really genuine, authentic arena football players, and they were really beating the crap out of each other, so that was fun. And Zach stood in there and he took his licks as well. But we have a couple scenes together, and I get to run him through his paces, and I play as one of his coaches. It was great. It's like slipping on an old great leather coat, when you get to work with friends like that. And I don't know about a Chuck reunion. I know that Zach has said publicly that he would like to make that happen. It's above my pay grade. If it happens, great. There's an old saying in Hollywood, some of you have heard me say this before, but I don't believe anything until the check clears. But if I was asked to reprise the role of John Casey, damn right, I'd jump at that. Same thing with Jane Cobb, but it's too soon. One thing I'll say about Jane is, people ask me, what's your favorite role you ever played? And I've had probably 5 or 6 milestone roles in my mind. From My Bodyguard to Full Metal Jacket and Jane Cobb and John Casey and then Mike Slattery and the last ship. But the one that romantically speaks to me the most is Jane, because I didn't get to complete the character. I didn't really get to finish the arc. It was cut off too soon, even though we got to do the movie, Serenity. But that's one that would be wonderful to revisit. I know it's been written about a lot. There have been comic books and some graphic novels about it, but that's not me actually doing it. It's the writers, the creatives, the special creatives. Lalo, I think we have a question right now.
Yeah, Chuck was very good. I remember when they started looking at that show. But in the process of casting, you were in the casting process for meeting all of these actors. How was Morgan?
Oh,
How was that one?
the casting process on Chuck was basically the same thing. I had to go through the whole testing process, meet the creatives, and then the studio, and then the network, and you got to go through each testing process. But as soon as I saw Zach there, who's 6'4", I got a shot at this. Because if Chuck is going to be only 5'11", I got no chance. So I felt relieved. My wife taught me something very important in the casting process, and it came about the time of that Clancy Brown story when I was unsure of myself and what I'm going to do. How am I going to buy new shoes for the kids and diapers and food and gas? It's way cheaper then. But she said, when you do this sort of thing, you have to go in on a platform of love. You have to love the process. Obviously, you have to be prepared, but you have to love the process. You can't be afraid of it. You can't be afraid of the people in the room. You can't be afraid of your competition, especially. She said, love the competition. Because it's usually between you and one other guy or two other guys. And speaking for myself. It's me and two other guys who are up for the role. Love them, you know. Don't be afraid of, oh, he's in here now, he's going to get it. Don't be that guy. Be like, well, so I came up with this little mantra for myself. Well, if you don't get it, I hope I do. And that's been sort of my mantra. And it works, because you go into the room fearlessly. That which is not love is fear, and they can smell fear in the room, and you're not going to get the job if they know you're afraid, because they need somebody reliable who's not afraid, that's ballsy and can go in and kick butt and get it right, and that's what professionals do. So that's what I do.
Sensei, teach me.
Who was next?
I think we had this gentleman.
So in Serenity, there's a couple of blooper scenes where Nathan Fillion kept on yelling Summer Glause's name. Do you know the story of why he kept yelling Summer, or?
Sure, Summer's not actually the youngest, but she seemed like the youngest to us. Jewel's 6 months younger, or a few months younger anyway, so Jewel was the baby, but Summer was really the baby, because she seemed like the most innocent. Jewel had been working since she was a kid, doing commercials and other things in Canada. So she was a little more of a grizzled veteran, even though she was only 19. Summer, on the other hand, was just, we wanted to protect her. And when we got rolling with the series and everyone felt confident in their characters, and something would go wrong, like a crew member would kick out a cord and the light would go out, they call that a kick out, we would have to blame someone. We called it the set scapegoat. So who better to be the set's scapegoat than the most innocent among you? Because you don't want to point a finger at the grip, because he's doing our job as it is. What, Joe, what are you doing? Joe's fault. Don't do that. No names on set. But if you say, Summer, everyone knew it wasn't her, but you would get this reaction. She'd go, what did I do? Nothing. So that became the running joke. Anytime anything went wrong, we would all yell, Summer! So that was this gentleman had a question.
Just following up on your previous question, answer. Is there a specific role that you missed and you regret, or that you passed on and you said like, oh, now looking at the movie, maybe I should have done it?
There are two roles that I auditioned for that I didn't get, that I really wish I had gotten. But when you see, actually there are three. There's probably 20, but because they say no way more than they say yes. In Hollywood, everyone basically has the power to say no. You want to be in the room with the few people that can actually say yes, that have the power to say yes. The first one would have been The Outsiders. I was in that audition process very, very early on, and I was auditioning for Patrick Swayze's role. Patrick was about 8 or 10 years older than I am, and I was a little young for that role. But I was the big guy, so I was the big brother. So Derry was the character I was auditioning for, and I went through the long audition process that all those guys went through, but didn't get it. And Patrick Swayze did, and he's better than I could have done it because I was too young, I think. So being miscast in a role, I think, is worse, even though you get the money. It's worse to be miscast in a role than not to be cast in a role you're wrong for. It's better you didn't get the job than you miscast. So that was one. The other one in Bull Durham. Duke Lelouch. didn't know the song, you know, so I couldn't sing the song properly. I didn't do the job. Can't sing, can't dance. So Tim Robbins got that job. He's great. No, you know, when you lose out to someone who's really good, it's like, oh well, I get it. The only time you really feel bad, speaking for myself, one feels bad is when one hasn't prepared enough and goes in sort of winging it because you didn't put in the work and you didn't get it because you stunk. You weren't prepared. So that's two. Outsiders, Bull Durham, one other one. I can't remember. It'll come to me. It'll come to me as I'm rambling on. But yes, it happens. It happens to every actor. But turn down roles? Nah. No. Here's a role. Here's $100 grand. You want to do it? Yes, baby needs new shoes. Darn right I do. Careful, I'm wrong for this one. 800 leagues down the Amazon. I'm going.
Thanks be damned.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, you're next.
What was it like being on the film of Drillbit Taylor with
Oh, Drillbit Taylor, I reprised the role of, is it reprised or reprised?
It's whatever you want it to be. It's your stage.
I redid it. Brought it up again. Of Linderman from My Bodyguard, because there was this joke in the movie where the kids are hiring a bodyguard and they are interviewing different ones. One's Chuck Liddell, and one's me, and then there are a couple of other big guys. So the only way that I thought it would work would be if I actually wore the same army coat from My Bodyguard, which I happen to keep and I still have in my closet, the hero jacket. And so I wore that and a t-shirt, and I was able to do that. But Judd Apatow, who produced the movie, was hilarious and funny. I was only there for like 5 hours in and out, but you know, I got to do it. I didn't do any scenes with Owen Wilson. It was just sort of a sight gag. What was the line? I said, I'll hire a bodyguard. I forget, it was basically the same My Bodyguard lines. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that was the only way that it would work as a running joke or an Easter egg, if you will, for me. This one. Owen Wilson's great. What's his catchphrase? Wow! There's a series on YouTube of him, like in all of his different movies, going, "Oh wow!" And he's hilarious. You had a question back there in the red visor.
Yeah. First of all, it's great to see you again. And
Nice to see you too.
yes, I'm still lucky to also give you that drawing yesterday of Breakdown.
Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. You're a terrific artist.
Thank you. I had a question about if I remembered asking you about rephrasing your character for Breakdown from Transformers Prime. If you have that special opportunity, do you think in Breakdown's voice you can tell of one of your lines or create one up just to give the fans of Transformers just something that would make them encouraged to hope to see him again someday with Knockout?
And I have to remember what Breakdown sounds like.
It's okay, take your time.
You know, to be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure what Breakdown's voice was exactly at the time. Was he a tough guy like this?
Sort of like a tough guy, but I remember that he used to be once a wrecker like Bulkhead. And I know that the two of them became rival enemies. But there was one line that I remembered him saying, that I think it was, "It's hammer time."
It's hammer time!
There you go.
Yeah, that's Long live Breakdown, the wrecker of the Decepticons.
Those pesky Decepticons.
But everyone loves them
Low
except
down,
the
dirty,
Autobots.
deceiving Decepticons. What was you, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, but everyone loves them as much as the Autobots. Don't have to complain about that.
No, I don't. But the key is, here's another one of my ethoses and my mantras is, this is a character that they could kill off in any episode. Make yourself lovable as quickly as you can.
Well, it's still kind of sad that Arachne killed Breakdown, but I mean, we would have loved to see him more of him. But if you ever were to come back again, would you love to rephrase him along with Darren as Knockout again?
Sure, yeah. Do you think, now that you bring this up, Breakdown and Knockout, a couple or no?
According to some fans of the Transformers franchise, and when they see them together in the IDW comics, they're an official couple, and
Official?
In the IDW comics of Transformers.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you were to study about it or just ask the fans about it the next time you go to the Transformers Con or something, I'm sure that they'll give you the answers that you need.
That's right. You know, I
have homework.
I am fascinated by fan fiction. There were some fan fictions from Firefly that I could not repeat. But it's out there. Thank you for that question, and thank you for the wonderful drawing.
No
Appreciate it.
props. I'd
Right.
love to see you again soon someday.
Me too.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think I better get going now because
Okay.
I have to be somewhere.
Okay, good. You're very sweet.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll see you again for a photo or something.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Be safe out there. Bye. Give her a hand, everybody.
There's a guy behind us.
She gave me this wonderful drawing of Breakdown and Knockout. As an official couple.
There's your love.
Ah, yes.
That's a tough act to follow. I'm gonna try it. So you played obviously Full Metal Jacket and you played Animal Mother. Now I was really surprised to find you didn't have a military background because you handled the M60 so well. And we, when we're posed with the M60, but we don't have that. So I'm just curious what background you had, what you went through on the film to kind of play the role because you played it very effectively.
You're in the service?
We were prior, yeah.
Okay. You're former military?
Yeah.
Okay. Animal Mother's trigger discipline left something to be desired. And I regret that. His, as they call it, booger hook, was on the bang switch far too often. However, once I got comfortable running around with that thing and heating up that barrel, but later on when I was doing the last ship, we had a technical advisor with our weapons training, and he was a Navy SEAL, a U.S. Navy SEAL, and his name was Tony, 6'5", probably 265, just jacked, just ripped, a SEAL. And we were talking in between takes of running and gunning on our show. At the time, we got to talking about Full Metal Jacket. He just sort of casually leads me down this dark alley of conversation. Full Metal Jacket, that was pretty good. We appreciated that in the SEALs, and I know the Marines really appreciate that too. It's a good movie, and Animal Mother's a fun character, really cool. That M60 you carry, that's pretty cool. What did that thing weigh? Was it heavy? I said, as I recall, it was 18 pounds, and you got to put the ammo on. The ammo wasn't as heavy because it wasn't fully loaded, and sometimes it was blanks. Yeah, so after a few hours, it got kind of heavy, and he just takes this deadpan beat. You gotta remember, he's not big, but this guy, Navy SEAL, and he goes, just get stronger. So humiliating. Because I get to play active, and I'm a soldier on TV sometimes. I didn't serve. My dad served. He was in the Naval Air Corps at the end of World War II, and many family members that have served. I didn't serve. I pretend to serve. And so when I get a chance to sit with someone that is authentic as the real deal, I am nothing but humbled and respectful. But that M60, when you go back and look at Animal Mother in those first couple scenes, waving that barrel around, not good muzzle management, not good trigger discipline. I know this is Canada and you don't have guns here, but this is gun terminology, so you can laugh at gun terminology too. You watch the movies. Jane had a gun. Jane's trigger discipline was not so good either. You look at some of the promos. But the reason is because in Full Metal Jacket, when we were doing those first scenes with Animal Mother, we did the second half first, the war section first, and the boot camp second for weather purposes, because we got there in September, October of 1985, and so we tried to get as much as we could do in the sunshine as we could. And on the side was Lee Ermey, who was supposed to be our technical advisor, but he stole the role from the other guy, Tim Colzerian. He was off rehearsing to be the drill instructor, and he wasn't like right on top of us, and I'm sure he would have smacked my hand. He told me later, we were buddies, may he rest in peace, Lee Ermey, but he told me that, I want to smack that hand away from that booger, that trigger right away, what the hell were you doing? It's like, I don't know, where were you? I was stealing the role of Gunny Hartman. Well, okay, congratulations. But I've nothing but, now I've learned proper safety.
I think we've got time for one more question.
More of a talk, yes, go ahead.
What was it like working with Stanley Kubrick in Full Metal Jacket?
Stanley Kubrick hated it. No, he was great. He was an interesting character, very complicated man, brilliant tactician. He would love to play chess, master strategist, and he was basically being a puppeteer for all of these little, little green men that he was manipulating around the set. He was very much about the visual, and the words were secondary. Words were important, but the visual, the painting was more important, and that goes to his history as a photographer. He started as a photographer for Time magazine, or Life magazine. So if the painting was beautiful, he would buy that and make that a take. And if the words were almost right, we'd still have to do it again. If the words were perfect, but the painting was just a little bit off frame, we'd have to do it again. Until he saw everything come together, he wouldn't buy that take and move on. So that's why he is notorious for doing many hundreds of takes. He would do hundreds of takes. He would do many, many takes, sometimes dozens of takes, because he had the luxury of time, because he built himself a fiefdom over there in England. Is fiefdom, is that, do you have to spell fiefdom? I'm trying to come up with words that I know she has to spell. Sorry. We're having fun, right? His little fiefdom that he built over there. So he didn't have to travel, and he had the luxury of spending as much time as he would like to do it his way. He didn't like to travel to Hollywood. He didn't respect the money guys, the non-creatives, as it were. So the reason he was able to get away with that is he kept his costs low. So they couldn't say, well, you're running extremely over budget. And he wouldn't. He would keep his budget below, gosh, I think Full Metal Jacket was under $15 million to shoot. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it was under 20. And it's his most successful movie, financially speaking. And I was just honored to be a part of that. But he was a tough nut, he was kind of like your father. You love him, you hate him, you don't want to listen to him sometimes, but you know you have to.
Well,
Is there no time for one more? I think there was one more. Well, this guy. There you go.
So what was it like working on the last ship?
Thank you. The Last Ship, if any of you haven't seen it, sort of foretells the pandemic, if you will. It's a story of the pandemic, the red flu, and our mission is to stay alive, find the cure, and save the world. And so the arc was wonderful. I got to spend a lot of time sitting and walking around on Navy-guided missile destroyers with actual commanders and admirals teaching us the ins and outs of both destroyers, aircraft carriers, and even some submarines. Very complex, high-budgeted show on TNT. If you get a chance to see it, the first 3 seasons are crackerjack, really great. And then it's hard to keep it going, although I think we did, but they're short and truncated seasons, so the quality, like when you do a 10-episode season, which we did in the last 2 years, the the quality tends to be a little bit better in those 10 episodes, because like the creatives again, what are we going to write this time, Joe? I don't know. But again, I was play acting at it in a Navy uniform, so we tried to give it as much authenticity as we could. And did we save the world? That would be a spoiler. Thank you. God bless you, Toronto. Thank you for having me. Thanks, my God.